them off, and if you will stand, face the audience momentarily, and then sit back down when I read your name. Robbie Roberson. Keely Peak. You will see her name on the candidates list or the ballot as Karen Keely Peak. Okay, Debbie Isaacs. Should be familiar to you. She's been in front of the room for at least the last year. Ralph Salade. Lee Winchell. Larry Farlow is not here, however, he did send me a notice of the things he wanted said. Okay, Henry Garcia. And Hattie Burliff. Okay, these are your candidates that are running for the board of directors. They will be seated here at the table in the order that I just called them, and those sheets of paper will be turned toward you so that you can read who they are and where their place is on the ballot. They are the ones, the places are the ones that they drew at the last board meeting. I think that was the last board meeting. Okay, we are going to be seated over there when they are seated here. The folks we want to thank for those who have helped. We have Bruce Troutwine and Bob Martinez for working the lighting system and the sound system. Tom McNew and the maintenance crew for getting the theater set up. Janelle Hobbs for getting us the theater for this event. I hope you're all comfortable and happy that we're here. Okay, the rules of order for this event. The purpose of my presence is to be certain that order is maintained. Please keep your questions civil, and please do not interrupt a person's question or answer. The question and answer period. The candidates each get no more than 5 minutes at the beginning of the program to make their presentation. Okay, a questioner is requested to step up to the microphone to ask a question. Any question from the audience will be ignored. One question per person. If you have more questions, you go to the end of the line and start all over. Each board member may respond to any question posed, even if the question is directed to one specific member. Did you get that, candidates? There will be a 1-minute time limit per question and per answer after each candidate has had the opportunity to offer their qualifications and comments. So at this time, we are going to go be seated where they're sitting now, and they are going to come up here. Mr. Roberson, you are seated in seat 1. You are sitting in the first place on the ballot. So you are up first to give us your no more than 5-minute presentation.
Hello, my name is Roby Roberson. I live here on the Ford, of course. The reason I'm running for board is for the financial reasons. It looks to me like we're spending our money in the wrong spot. We need to be spending it on the board. And that's my agenda, is to get the Ford into black and keep it there. Address all, whatever we have to do to get into black, we need to be that way, and then start allotting our money as the members see fit, going backward, however we want to spend the money on the Ford. I feel there should be a lot more member input into the board's decisions. That's my position for the board.
Thank you, Mr. Roberson. Next person we'll have speak and tell us what her qualifications and her desires are for the Ford is Karen Keeley Peak. Keeley, here's your chance.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you all here. My name is Karen Keeley Peak. I do ask that you please call me Karen. Between 1938 and 41, my grandfather was quartermaster of Fort Clark and oversaw completion of the swimming pool and construction of Dickman Hall. My mother, Joan Keeley, returned to Fort Clark in 1989, and I visited here annually for over 20 years. I fell in love with the fort and always intended to retire here. My husband, Bill, and I have been members in good standing since January 2010 and are year-round residents. My education and work experience are in microbiology, initially in the clinical or hospital lab and later managing microbial culture collections and teaching laboratories at the university level. For 10 years prior to retirement, I was a research associate at the University of South Florida Center for Biological Defense. If elected, I will endeavor to apply the scientific method, investigating the history of a problem, collecting and analyzing data and other information, and applying critical thinking skills to questions brought before the board to arrive at evidence-based decisions. I'm running for the board because I cannot ask other people to serve if I'm not willing to do so myself. We live across from Shafter Hall. I cannot watch the Cavalry Brigade or the Fort Clark Days Committee at work and not go help. My objectives are the preservation of our heritage and historical landmarks, of our quality of life and security, of Las Moras Springs and its watershed, of our property values, and the financial solvency of our association. My husband and I, like many of you, have a substantial and fixed investment on the fort, our home. We must all confront the short and long-term financial circumstances of the association. I am increasingly concerned that the financial basis of our association may be unsustainable. In brief, membership numbers are dwindling. In December, 1 new family recreational membership was sold, while 8 memberships were turned in. Fees from those members who actually pay them have not kept up with the real cost of maintaining Fort Clark Springs. Employee health insurance was dropped and a special assessment required to cover a $175,000 shortfall in 2011. Amenities and services are in decline. Dickman Hall is unfit as rental space for meetings, parties, or weddings, yet we need that income to offset the cost of insuring it and paying the property taxes on the building. The adult center is in bad need of refurbishing. There are fewer employees to maintain our common property and handle our accounts. Deteriorating assets and amenities undercut our ability to keep members, much less attract new ones. These disturbing trends are readily apparent to us all. But given my cautious approach to problem solving, I am unwilling to offer premature suggestions, or to campaign on promises I may not be able to keep. I simply don't have enough information to form well-founded judgments on the profound issues that face us. The most comprehensive and efficient access to that information is through board service. I remain passionate about Fort Clark and our shared lives here. I am optimistic that we can reinvigorate Fort Clark Springs. A vote for me is a vote for due diligence in the study of issues and for evidence-based decision-making. Let's say that. Decision-making. Put my research skills to work for the association. Help me be a part of our solution. And I certainly appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Our next candidate sitting in position 3 is Debbie Isaacs. Debbie.
Good morning. I guess most of you do know who I am. I have been in your face for the last 11 months as your board president. I do want to say that I have been a member since 2001. I have my investments down here in Fort Clark Springs. This past year has definitely been a learning experience until you can be on the board and get on the board and you realize how much is involved in being on this board and what your decisions mean to every one of you. It's a big responsibility. There have been a lot of things that have happened this year. Our income has gone down this year. Our daily costs have gone up. As Keely mentioned, you sell one membership and you get 5 or 6 back. As you know, your household expenses have increased. Well, the fort's daily expenses have increased also. We know there's a lot of problems on the fort. We know that we have problems. Right now we are transitioning with people quitting as employees. I think we have hired some people. We are starting to finally come out of this slump, and I would just like to be re-elected as a board member to finish out what has been started this year. Thank you.
Mr. Ralph Salade, number 4 on the ballot.
Good morning, I'm Ralph Salade. As my brother on the fort, John Mattingly, is probably better known as Rosie's husband. I am probably better known as Linda's husband. We have 4 children and 7 grandchildren. And after I retired from the Air Force, I spent 21 and a half years in the Air Force, and after I retired, I worked for a friend of mine in Delaware and managed his garden center for him and handled the payroll for his landscaping crew. After that, I moved to Illinois and managed a marina, and then kept going westward and ended up in Washington State, where I managed a cutlery store for 14 years. The last 2 of those 14 years, my store had the highest sales of the company. When we first arrived at the fort 2.5 years ago, we came for a week visit, liked it very much, and decided we would come back. A little bit later we did, and stayed a month, and decided we liked it well enough that we bought a place and are living on the fort now. One of the things I think the fort can do, and it involves everyone, is to be involved more with what's going on. One of the biggest things is advertising. I think that if each of us would contact people that you know, or magazines that you subscribe to and help advertise in that manner, trying to get more and more people here that would love the fort and decide to stay or at least visit frequently. Thank you.
Okay, we have Mr. Lee Winchell, who is number 5 on the sheet. Mr. Winchell, it's up to you.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for attending this morning. First thing I had down here is I thought was the most important thing was to ask. I thought the most important thing, sorry, to ask everybody who is applying for this position and why they're here and want to serve on the board. But I think we've heard quite a bit of that coming down the line. I'm running because I believe Fort Clark Springs, both as a community and an important piece of U.S. history, Fort Clark deserves to be preserved, improved, and our present members, our future members, for its historical significance. Big question this upcoming board must address is how do we achieve the financial security to ensure this community's continued to exist and can have, in fact, provide more benefits for our members as well as become a destination people want to come to and, more importantly, want to make their home. I don't pretend to have the answers, but I do have ideas, and we'll work for what should be our common interests. As a board member, I'll be available to the members and sensitive to what they feel the fort's most pressing needs are. I look forward to working with you all at Fort Clark, and we know what it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next person is Mr. Farlow. He is missing. However, he sent me some stuff to tell you. He says, I moved to Fort Clark Springs in July of 2006 following my retirement as the Public Affairs Director at Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio. In 2008, the Air Force called me back for 8 weeks to work on a couple of issues, mostly dealing with the use of tasers. I feel blessed to have found Fort Clark and the many friends and neighbors I have made here. My experience in public relations for the Air Force and other branches of government has given me a thorough understanding of how communities and organizations function. I was on the board of directors for both the South and Greater Chamber of Commerce's in San Antonio. I served as the Air Force loaned executive for the San Antonio United Way campaign in 1996. I represented military bases at meetings at the National Association of Installation Developers and the National Association of University Parks. In San Antonio, I worked with the National Park Service at the San Antonio Missions to resolve local issues. I was honored by the Federal Protective Service for assistance and visits of high-level governmental officials, including our state senators and Senator John Glenn prior to his return to space. I spent 3 days working with the Texas Rangers before Governor Perry's visit to Brooks Air Force Base. In today's world, they take no chances for the visits anywhere. I have worked with the state of Texas environmental officials in helping to preserve our historic buildings. I would hope to support them at Fort Clark. I own 2 golf websites, Golf Coast and golfwestern.com. Okay, I got another minute. Okay. I will finish here. So that said, I am honored to have served on your board since my appointment in 2010 and the election last year. I have done my best and hope to do so in the future. Thank you all for your support. Larry Fowler. Next person is in position 7, Mr. Henry Garcia.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Some of you know me. I'm a native of this area. I grew up here. I left here in '65, military. I started a career in telecommunications and retired after 31 years. And after traveling with my wife for a couple of years, we decided that she got tired of visiting her furniture at the storage place, so we had to find a place to live. We decided here. I thank y'all for being here, and one of the reasons that I now serve on the board and want to serve again is that I truly believe that we are some of the most fortunate folks around to be able to live in a place like Fort Clark. We have so much to offer, and we have a great potential to offer more. But I firmly believe that before we can do that, we need to get our house in order. We need to make sure that we run Fort Clark as a business. Because if you really think about it, that is what we are. We must run it as a business to be able to provide the amenities that we all expect and the visitors expect. As a board member, my firm belief is that we must listen to all the members on both sides of the issue. Doing that, do our own research once we have information from the members, and then base our decision or the decision as an individual that benefits the entire membership, not a certain particular group or whoever screams the loudest. We must do our research. We must base our decisions to benefit the entire community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our final speaker is in position number 8 on the ballot, and this is Hattie Berlin.
Thanks, Diane. First of all, I want to apologize. My allergies are going wild, so stuff is running down the back of my throat, my nose is dripping, my ears are full, but, and I know that my voice sounds a little strange, but I could not pass up being here. I've been a member of Fort Clark since 1979, and I've seen many things happen. Good things, bad things. We've been through tough years. We can come through tough years because we've done it in the past. My one goal as a board member is to keep every single member out there informed about what's going on in the office at Fort Clark Springs. Most of you don't even know what is happening every single day. But as a member, you own Fort Clark. Fort Clark is yours. It's not the boards, it's not the people in the office, it's every single member. We are a member organization, and if you don't know what's going on, then you can't make any just decisions. It's the board's duty to inform the members about everything that happens on Fort Clark. That is my goal, is to make sure that every member knows what happens from day to day, from month to month. I appreciate your vote, and I really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you.
Thank you all, including Larry. At this time, we will entertain questions. Would you please start lining up at the mic? You may address your question to any single candidate, but every candidate may respond to your question, regardless of who's called upon. Thank you very much.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank y'all for running for the board. I appreciate you having the desire to serve. I know it's a big job, but I do appreciate that. I'm confident that each one of you have assessed the financial condition of our board at this point. And I don't need to go into that. But my question is for each of you. What is your assessment of our financial condition? How will you act toward making it better? Your goals and how they are prioritized.
Thank you. Did you have a person that you wanted to address, or all of them? Okay, we'll start with you, Mr. Roberson.
Well, the first thing is we'll have to look at the existing budget and find out how much money we do have and where it's going. And if in fact we are in the black or in the red. I've heard tales from both sides, so I'm not sure where the fort is exactly now in this fiscal year budget. But we're gonna have to go down through line item on the whole budget and decide if we're in the red, where we need to cut and what we need to cut to get in the black. And I would propose to do that again, as Hattie said, with the board, the membership's input on that as well, because it's services that we're all gonna have to pay for or lose. So we just need to go over the budget, find out where we're actually at, what we're gonna have to do, and the proposals we can come up and get us in the black. And then once we get in the black, find out where we need to spend the money going forward.
I guess I could probably ditto what Roby said. When I say I have suspicions that we're unsustainable, I'm concerned that we are built on a growth basis, and we have stopped growing. We have stopped advertising. The idea, as I understand it, was that if we could keep adding new members in perpetuity, our fees would never have to go up. Well, we've stopped adding, we're in contraction. We have not raised our fees consistent with the Consumer Price Index. It is grossly inaccurate. I think we may need to establish another formula so that our fees do rise at the rate that will keep us solvent. I know we all hate to hear that. It may be unavoidable.
This month, next week, I guess, the auditors will be here to give y'all a report of this past year's physical books. I can tell you it is in the red. We had concerns and it didn't come out at the last board meeting because we weren't for sure of the final numbers. We do have the final numbers. Like I said earlier, there are a lot of things wrong. There's a lot of things that need to be looked at. I can tell you that this board right now, this year, has spent many hours on the budget we have created. There's a lot of things that the board has not been privy to. When you go in and you ask, you are hit with a stone wall. We have worked through some of those issues. There's lots of things that we have learned. Like I said, this year has been a learning experience. There's been a lot of misuse on funds, and that's it.
As I mentioned before, there is a 1-minute limit on each question and each answer. So that's why I'm stopping these people.
I agree that in some cases fees may have to rise, but I think we have to be careful with the people that are here now. Some are being chased away by fees that perhaps are not in order. The advertising should be increased to the point where we're encouraging more and more people to come. However, we've got to watch the rates so that we're not scaring people away.
Thank you. Mr. Winchell.
Thank you. I don't know what the budget outcome is right now, and I guess none of us will know until we get the auditor's report. I know that it's shaky. I know from before that you couldn't get the information that you wanted. But until we turn this particular organization around and run it as it should be, it will never reach where we want it to go. We have to put it in the limelight of the 20th century and treat it as a business instead of what it has been in the past. And that's what I see as one of the biggest things that we have to do here.
Mr. Garcia.
Well, first of all, I have to say, when you look at the situation we're in, cutting services and cutting the budget sometimes is not the way to go, because it just creates greater problems. But one thing we do need to do is work more efficiently with what we have and get away from this, well, we've always done it this way, or we've done it this way for years, why change now? We have to look at things differently and use the old cliche, think out of the box. Something that may be outrageous when you talk about it, but it may be the way to go.
Thank you. Ms. Burley.
I know that the financial situation is shaky at best. We don't know where we stand. We don't know what's been going on. I do know that we don't have any correct answers. The auditor should be able to tell us where we stand and how much in debt we really are, how much in the red we're operating on. We can turn this wonderful place that we live in around. It's been done before. In the past, we had a debt of $200,000 and we had $10,000 in the bank. We survived that. We can survive anything. But every single member out there needs to know to the penny where everything is spent. That has not been done. We have to work together as members to bring this organization back to what it can be. Thank you.
Next question, please. And do you want this addressed to the entire group, or do you want this addressed to an individual?
The entire group, please. Thank you all for being willing to do this thankless job. And it is a thankless job. You're all volunteers. And I consider past history to be a good indicator of what you will do in the future. So could all of you tell us what you have done in the past as volunteers for this fort or for the city of Brackettville? Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm going to draw the short end of the stick there. I haven't volunteered on the fort or in Brackett for anything since I've lived here. I don't have anything to add other than that.
I haven't served Brackettville. I volunteer with the Cavalry Brigade. I am the chief fundraiser for Fort Clark Days, That's where my primary energies are going right now. I trimmed the hedges around the empty saddle because it was looking bad, and I'm going to try, with the help of Joe Telemontes, to keep that looking good. Have I showed up anywhere else that I'm not remembering you guys? I don't know.
Museum, you work at the museum?
Museum, yeah. Museum, I do. Oh, and recycling. Do you know I work here too? Yeah, I do.
Debbie, I don't think I need to introduce you each time, but I will. Well, I've been here for approximately 10 years. I've been retired here for 9 of those 10 years. I have been president of the Community Council for a period of 4 years. I have been president of the Golf Association. I've been on the Golf Committee as their president of the Golf Committee for about 7 years. I have been on the Chamber of Commerce at one time. I am presently the president of the Historic Preservation Building Restoration Group. I've been on the Planning Committee when it disbanded. Festival, yes. I've been with the Fort Clark Days this is my 5th year that I've been involved with Fort Clark Days. I actually was the leader of that one year. When nobody else would take it up, I stepped in and was in charge of Fort Clark Days. Yes, I was president of the Community Council. I still continue to be involved with the Community Council. I actually also host the end of the month scramble right now with another lady. I've pretty much been everywhere on the fort in volunteerism. We ran out of a whole 1 minute's time. Mr. Saleh.
My wife and I have both been involved in the church here in Brackettville. We've been involved with the Relay for Life in Brackettville, and I've had some contact with the Nutrition Center. I'm involved in golfing on the fort, and that's about it for me.
Mr. Winchell.
Thank you. Needless to say, I'm involved in recycling. But that goes both sides of the highway. We are working presently with Henry to bring the other side of the highway over here to keep more stuff out of the landfill. Also involved with Calvary Brigade. I'm on other committees that preservation of the buildings. That one's a big one. I really like that. And then I do the. Why can't I think of it? I know. I can't think of what you do. Yeah, that committee. But I've been involved around here ever since I've got here, and I enjoy it very much.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
I have volunteered for on the committee with the 4th of July parade and that celebration. I also served on the community Christmas celebration, the festival we had this past year. I also served on the Protect Our Water Committee here at the Fort, and I also served as the secretary for the Keep Our Water Committee, or association that is headquartered out of Uvalde, and it handles or deals with the issues of water in the entire region. I also volunteered for the Relay on Life, and I served as a volunteer firefighter and safety officer for volunteer firefighters.
Jenner. I'm going to speak for Mr. Farlow, who says, I am an avid golfer and am a past president of the Men's Golf Association. I serve as the board's representative on the golf committee and introduced the concept of composting to the group since I have seen this used with success at other courses. It's a lot of work serving on the board, but I enjoy it. I think I have a level head and I can weigh the issues that come up with some common sense. I listen to the people I serve and worked to get rid of the KOA. Part of being raised in a newspaper family is trying to get to the answers, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. This has served me in the past, and I hope it will in the future. I ask for your vote to serve on the board of Fort Clark. Hattie Burlett.
I am president of the Chamber of Commerce presently. I have worked with the Chamber of Commerce for a number of years. I've worked Fort Clark Days for a number of years. Outside of that, I haven't volunteered anywhere else. That Chamber of Commerce keeps me pretty busy. But I've been a past board member, and I would appreciate being able to serve again. Thank you.
Okay, next question.
My question goes to all of the members. How do you feel about selling water here off the fort?
Is that for all, you said? Correct. Okay.
The short of that is I'm against that. I don't think we'll be selling water anywhere.
The only water that ought to leave Kinney County is when it flows naturally out of here in its natural watershed. Don't sell it, keep it here.
Water is our livelihood, and if we lose our water, we lose everything.
I haven't seen much water, but I don't think we should sell it.
I think the only water that we should see move out of here comes out of our faucet.
I guess my answer is just on the committees, the two committees that I serve, give you the answers, what my feelings are about selling water. It's for our use, not to be transported out of this county.
One of Fort Clark's greatest assets is the water that we have here. The swimming pool and the creek. Without it, Fort Clark would be dead. We would be a desert. Our real estate values would plummet without the water.
Thank you. Next question.
My name is Matt Curtis. We've lived here for 10 years on the fort, and questions I have is for the Ms. Isaacs and Mr. Garcia and really Eric Farlow, who's not here. Here's the past record of the present board that's on now. 1, refused to show a detailed financial report. 2, spent $20,000 to $35,000 to buy back the hunting concession that was given for no cost. 3, spent $30,000 to $35,000 on increased property tax because of the hunter concession. 4, wrote the contract with the Fort Clark Springs manager for no apparent reason. 5, unknown costs to sell list. 6, spent $90,000 for lawyers' fees last year. 7, refused to give the members a vote to change the board from 5 to 7 members. Now my question is, why should we retain you on the board?
It's a good thing you got that. This is to the present board members.
As to the contract of the $35,000 on the hunt, I was not on the board at that time. I came in after that was happened. On the $90,000 on lawyer's fees, I don't know which lawyer fees you're really speaking about because we pay lawyer fees on foreclosures, on several other things that are going on, which were all pretty much previous to my being on the board. What was the other question?
Break the contract with.
I was not on the board at that. I was not on the board at that time. That was previous to my being elected on the board. There's something else on the financial statement. Anybody can go up and get a financial statement anytime they want to. You have to request it. I am the one that put that on the ballot. I'm the one that put that on the agenda last month. As board president, I could not second it.
Let's see, Mr. Garcia, you are on the class board.
Well, let me just try and answer all your questions with one simple answer. We heard me say earlier, we need to get our house in order. And some of these things that you have mentioned occurred prior to me being on the board. So a lot of the issues you bring up certainly need to be looked at. And I've been on the board less than 8 months maybe. Things that you have mentioned happened long before. They didn't happen overnight, so we're certainly not going to fix them overnight. So why vote to keep me on the board is let me finish what I've started. Thank you.
Next question.
My name is Shelley Brown. I'd like to know if you would all entertain the thought of a quarterly membership meeting so that the members can have open government and we know what's going on and our voices can be heard. We only have one meeting a month, and that is a board meeting.
Hey, Mr. Robertson.
One of the things that I would like to do is have almost a monthly member meeting. I want to hear, I don't propose to know what's best for everybody here. I don't propose to hardly know what's best for me. But trying to run the things that, for the whole fort, I need your input to know what we need to do. I would like to see more of a member forum to the board, almost monthly. I've been trying to go door to door to everybody and, campaign a little bit. I've got my phone number and email address on a little card I give everybody, and I'd like to hear from everybody here. That's why I want to run, is to hear what everybody wants and get the fort in the order everybody wants it in. No more just doing things to fuzz everybody's hair up and make them mad for no good reason.
Yes, I would entertain the notion of more frequent member meetings.
I am actually, would be ready for that also, but I believe we need to go back to the board workshops. I think the members and the board members need more education on what they're doing. You're stuck in here and expect to pick up when you've been elected in 1 year and make a big difference. It takes you a year to learn it. But we do need to go back to some board meetings and some learning situations.
Yeah, I think frequent meetings of the entire membership would be desirable.
I think the concept of like a town meeting, at least 4 times a year, would be added value to the whole membership. I also agree with basically what has been said here. More meetings, more input from the membership, more membership involvement. It will always serve the community better. Gives us more information to work with.
As I said in my initial disclosure of information, I believe that the members of Fort Clark are the most important assets we have. If the members are not informed, if they're not allowed to speak, then we as a board fail. Every member has a right to know what goes on every single day on Fort Clark. No secret meetings, no executive meetings. This kind of stuff creates hard feelings. The members out there believe that everything is done in secret. We need member input, and we strive to please every member out there. That is an impossibility. But every member should be informed enough to be able to understand what the board is working toward.
Thank you. Next questioner.
Yes, my name is Dave Bauman. I have a question about we all know that the yellow signs are up again this weekend for the hunting. And I would like to know if the board knows or is informed that they're in violation of Chapter 209, Section 209.006, which has to do with restricting member access to common areas. There has to be a proper notice by written request, return request, certified mail, return request. How they feel about that, if it's going to continue.
This question is going to the two board members, is that correct?
To everyone.
Or to everyone? Okay.
As I've been talking to people, the hunting issue seems to be a pretty big concern to everybody on the fort. I'm not a hunter now, I have been in the past, but the hunting issue with closing the fort and being open to people that want to watch birds and walk the trails is something we're going to have to resolve. I'm not sure, I don't know, I can't quote chapter and verse on the law like that man there can, but we've got to address that. The hunting, either we're going to have to allow it and the board, the members are going to have to decide just one area for hunting, or we're going to have to address it and come to a solution. I don't know what that is right now, but I hope as a board, if y'all like me as a board member, we can come up with something that makes everybody happy.
The issue raised is certainly problematical. I think that kind of notice is not practical. It's not affordable, so it needs to be considered. I am for the hunting. The reason being is that we must cull the population annually. If not, we're going to have increased starvation, inbreeding, and they can become a disease reservoir. They must be culled. Now, we can either derive income from it, or we will have to allow a different kind of culling, but it must happen. And I think we can accommodate the hunting and the birding. We are denying access to those areas not many times a year. Thank you.
Just like Keely just said, or Karen just said, the hunt is done for the culling of the deer. As far as your answer to the chapter and the code, I am not aware of that. I do know that our hunt dates have been posted on our weekly newsletter, and they're posted, all the days were posted ahead of time when they were set this year. So that should be pretty much letting the membership know when the hunts were going on. They have restricted the use this year. It has brought in money. I have not heard the exact amount as to this time, but we can't afford to trap the deer and move them out of here, because for every 10 deer, I think, you have to have a rabies and stuff done on each head or something. So we can't afford to cull our deer that way.
Everybody?
I think that was a very good question. I'm not a hunter, and I think if I'm elected to the board, then that's one thing I'll look into.
problem with hunting here is something that a lot of people don't like to face. The fact is, it has to go on. We have to cull the herd. It is much too large. It is everywhere around, especially in your backyard, eating all your good stuff that you plant. But is there a reasonable answer to it right now? I don't know. We started on it once before, and we had somebody come in here to do the program, and it was supposed to be a lot more that was attached to that. But the way it was run this last year, they kept it out of most of the areas that people were in. And how it's going to go down the line is still another question. It's something that is ongoing, and everybody here has to realize it's ongoing.
I think the question has been pretty much answered by everyone else, but let me just say that the proper notifications, in fact, have been done as far as, to my knowledge. Now, you quoted chapter and verse, but what you also failed to quote was the other side of the coin, and that is we currently have control of how we do it. The last thing we need is for Fish and Game to come and tell us how to run it, because we need to take care of the herd in a situation.
The alternative to having hunts scheduled regularly is for somebody to come in here and call the herd like everybody says. I was on the board that put Mike Stroff in under a 3-year game management plan. We did so because the Texas Fish and Game said that we were this close to an anthrax epidemic because of the size of our herd. They offered to come in and do one weekend and carry out 2,000, 3,000 deer, truck them out of here. I, as a board member, said that's not what we want to do. I don't want to see 1,000 deer being carried out of here in trucks because it's a necessary thing to be done to avoid infestation of anthrax and other diseases. Anthrax is not a deer disease. It is a mammal disease. It affects dogs, cats, people. So the hunts are necessary, or we call it by just bringing somebody in to kill thousands. It's your choice.
Thank you, Lynn. Next question.
My name is Nancy Chambers. My husband and I and twin boys have lived here in the Brackett, Fort Clark area since August of 2010. We do have a lot of concerns. We love the fort, and I'm probably speaking here too for the younger generation and us that have kids. There are lots of kids on the fort these days, and we are in the 20th century, and we need to pay attention. The one question that I have, of course, the concern is financial. And we all have assessments to pay. I know everybody was not happy of having to pay the extra $42 special assessment this last year. I have paid mine. I wasn't happy about it because I didn't live here all during that time. My question is to everybody on the board at this time, and this is an honest question for everybody. Is everybody on the board right now upstanding and current on all of their assessments, and have you paid the $42 special assessment for last year?
Yes, sir.
I've been current on my dues since we've lived here, and I have paid the $42 assessment even though I didn't want to. And I've got 2 kids, one 14 and one 3.
Current and paid.
I am current, have never been late, and I have paid my 80s $4. I have 2 lots.
I am current, and yes.
The same, I'm current.
Well, I'm 2 months ahead, and I'm also also paid for both of my lots.
I'm correct in my regular assessments. I have not paid my $420 because I have 10 memberships. The reason I have not is because I have seen the accounts payable. I know where the money went.
It'd be nice to have her share that with us. Okay, next question.
Woody Harnberg, I've been a member many years, volunteered.
I think you have to turn square to that mic.
I have to talk square? Okay, I always talk square. Okay, my concern is that the board has rules of order to follow. And I have seen abuses of following the rules of order. One thing is that a board member has no power. They are a member. Their power comes into effect when they meet as a board. They do not make decisions ahead of time or in little groups and control like a majority control ahead of time. So that my main concern is that every member is aware of their station, of their power. When they meet, they turn it over to the director of operations, and the operations carry things out. I just want to know, does everybody adhere to the high moral ethics required by the board? It's rules.
My answer to that would be yes. I don't intend to be part of a behind-the-scenes group. I want to be part of the member group. One of the persons I talked to had suggested, because I told him about my idea of, getting more member input, and he had suggested it would be a good idea for the board to maybe meet once a month or once whenever down here at the university or a larger area, and all of us sit at a different table. And that way the board members could come up and address us with, the board members, but the membership could address us as a more informal workshop session and talk to every board member and give them their opinions. Then the board members could get all the information and input from the members together and address it that way. I don't intend to be part of any secret meetings or behind the door meetings.
No secret meetings, no behind the door meetings, and yes, I consider myself an exceedingly ethical person. Thank you.
According to the bylaws, there are just certain things that you can discuss behind closed doors or in executive session. Other things, you cannot do that as far as, so that is actually supposed to be done in the regular meetings. But there is some things that, and as far as I know, we don't agree on anything right now behind closed doors, or haven't already decided what's going to be voted on.
I think there should be no decisions made before a board meeting by members or a member. No influence peddled before the meeting. The meeting should take care of it. There shouldn't be anything going on individually before that.
Having been on the board for a short period of time once before, I understand the complete workings of how the board operates. And I don't see anything going on underhanded one way or the other.
I have served on many boards, and my firm belief that everything should be out in the open when it comes to decision making. However, there are some occasions having to do with personnel issues when there are employees involved that you do not discuss the particulars in an open meeting. The decision is made in an open meeting, but getting to that decision has to be behind closed doors by law. But I truly believe that every decision that is made needs to be made in the open with membership present.
A board member is only a board member when the board meets. Outside of the board meeting, they are a regular member of Fort Clark Springs. They have no more authority than you do, each individual out there, because a board member is only functional as in a meeting of the board. Any other time, they have no other authority. As I said before, I firmly believe there are things that should be discussed in executive session. One is personnel matters for employees of the fort. The second one is differences between members in the fort, differences between members and members. Those are the only two things that I firmly believe that an executive session should be held. Everything else should be out in the open, in open meeting. We should discuss financial matters, legal matters. Everything needs to be open for the members.
Next question.
I'm Woody Trotter, and I am a sixth-generation Texan, and Fort Clark is very dear to my heart. What will future board members do to preserve our historical buildings? I'm not against the 4th of July fireworks display. I am vehemently opposed to the location by the empty saddle. In the past, the fireworks display has been very poorly in the past, it has not been very well supervised, and children have been allowed to fire fireworks. And that is a fact. That it is over, there is a fact that it's over 1,000 gallons of fuel stored in maintenance in the same area that the fireworks display takes place. This area is surrounded by historical buildings and family residences. If elected, would you be willing to relocate the fireworks display and not put the fort at risk?
Yes, I would look at anything like that. I don't know right off, I can't think of another spot, but I mean, someone here probably can, or maintenance could come up with it, but anything like that that the membership wants would be very willing to look at and see what would be the best solution to it.
I'd be willing to study the matter.
I do know that this past year that the fort went out there and they banned any individual kids from shooting off fireworks this past year because of the concern by the membership. I do know that the fire department there, and there's a lot of planning goes into this and where it's done at to keep people from individually shooting fireworks off inside the fort. It's better to have them in one area. But as far as the location, I don't have a problem looking, but it needs to be done now instead of in the month of July when you're ready to do the process.
I think we should all look into the safety issues involved with it.
I understand your concern. I also know that last year there was a lot taken into consideration to take and dampen down that thought of young people shooting off fireworks, and it didn't happen. Looking at another area, I agree with Debbie. If you're going to do it, you're going to have to look at it now, not wait.
As mentioned before, there have been some changes with respect to individual fireworks. I can speak from the fire department standpoint. We make sure that we have as much equipment available as possible. We actually, the area that you hold it at now, we actually water down a lot of the areas
to keep the embers down, and we station equipment actually away from the scene that some of you may not even know it's there. We have equipment on the other side of 90 and in other locations away from where the actual fireworks are being set off. Another location, well, if anybody has any other suggestions, as a board member, I'd certainly be willing to listen to them.
Any place on Fort Clark is a hazard for fire. We have so much bare land with mesquite and grass and bushes that careful study has to be done to find a place that's safer than down there by the creek. The creek area stays green most of the time. It doesn't dry out like the land behind us. The fireworks display, I think, is important, but it's also important to protect what we have. Every single building that we have on Fort Clark is a valuable asset. If it is well planned out and we have the fire protection like Henry says, I think that studying for a better place to have it could be done, could be acceptable, but the creek area where we are now, where we have it now, is pretty well protected.
Thank you all. Next question.
My name is Marilyn McNerlin. My husband and I own a home here on the fort. This is our 5th year here and we love it. I'm a business owner and have been on many boards, and it's my understanding when you're on a board you work through things, you work together, you work for the betterment of whether it's the board or committee that you're a part of, to work for the best overall. My question is for Hattie in particular. The last time you were on the board, quit when things weren't exactly as you chose them to be. So how can I feel that you would continue and work on board for an upcoming term and know that you would stay and work through problems instead of quitting when things weren't your way?
The particular incident that caused me to resign from the board is when they fired Felix Serna. This was done by 3 board members. It was done in a secret session prior to the meeting with the board. I was called to an executive session and the statement was made, we're going to fire Felix. And I asked the question, for what reason? And I was given bad management. I said, that is ambiguous. We have to have a justifiable reason. There has to be a just cause before we can do this. There was no justification. A board member serving in this position is not only legally liable, they're also financially liable for decisions made. I could not stay on the board that refused to follow the guidelines of what is right and what is wrong.
I think we're going to plan to have this meeting last about another 5 minutes. So if you have any questions, be quick and get up into the line. Go ahead.
My question is strictly for Ms. Berlew. You being on the board, knowing supposedly where all the money went, what gives you the right to not pay your special assessments and the rest of us don't get that option? We have to pay our assessments. If we don't, we get put on a pretty little list in the front office once a month that we're past due. You being a board member wanting to stay in the past, we do have financial issues. What gives you the right to take the stance? I own 4 properties in Piedmont. What gives you the right to take the stance? I am not going to pay mine.
And I never stated that I was not going to pay it. I haven't paid it yet.
Next question.
Everybody keeps talking about advertising and adding more family memberships. I just wonder if everyone on the board is aware that if you have a family membership as an outsider, you can call anyone in and they can get into this fort. And if you're aware of that, and what are we going to do about that? Because we've had things stolen, we have children, people aren't observing the speed limits, security's been cut down during the day. You want more people in here, but we're not able to enforce any laws. What are your thoughts on that?
As I've been talking to people, security is another big issue that they all bring up. And I've seen in the reports that there's been several break-ins. I don't know what we need to do to security, except I've heard from in the past, security was a lot more stringent and more enforceable, I guess. We do need to shut down the amount of people just wandering in and out of the gate all the time. I don't know that there are a lot now or not. You know, I don't have any numbers. I've heard people say that occasionally people come in and they end up playing golf and don't pay for it, and they're milling around different neighborhoods. So we need to address the security issue, and I don't know what abilities the security, how much they can do. I don't know how they can enforce things other than just say don't do that if the person doesn't do it. I don't know what else they can do, but we need to address the security issue and find out what enforceable things we can give the security as tools to work with.
We need to get our financial house in order, and then that is one of the things I would like to see is upgrade security. More people, more manning, more drive around, more checking doors. My mother remembers a time when I think the company was Smith, perhaps. Does anyone else remember Smith Security?
Yep.
It seemed at that point that it was much harder for me to get on the gate through the gate as her visitor. I would like to see a return to more stringent security. Quite honestly, I'm afraid to go out of town. I don't like that feeling. I don't want to have to install a security system, but would anyone respond if it went off? I don't know.
I do know that we have problem enforcing some of our traffic laws and things. I do know that we have been trying to work with Justice of the Peace to where when the Sheriff's Department or somebody comes over here and they give a ticket, they're just thrown out. What we're having to work with right now, what we're trying to do is get this resolved so when a ticket is given over on Fort Clark, they have to abide by all the rules. And until we get the backing with the Justice of the Peace and the Sheriff's Office on stuff like that, then the security is just, they're not backed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We as membership and as board members have to back our security people and stand behind them. And there has been some decrease in some security. It's the early morning shift when kids are getting ready to go to school, people are going to work and things. So at the time, we didn't feel like we really needed that on a week-to-week basis during the week when people are getting ready to go to work with our financial situation right now.
I think in order to increase make our financial system better, we do have to have more people coming in, and if it's a matter of needing more security at the same time, well, then that's what we need.
This problem has been around for a while. The reduction on security, yes, was done because of financial needs. Until we get our house in order and get the financials squared away, we're in no position to hire any other people. Everything along this line that has to do with the fort is going to take time, and time is what we have to look at to solve this problem.
Yeah, as Lee mentioned, this issue has been a problem for quite some time, and unfortunately, there's no easy fix for it. Part of it is the problem is some of the things that we have here on the fort are not within compliance with state regulations, so the local sheriff's department can't enforce those rules because, for example, a speed limit sign doesn't meet the state criteria as far as the state transportation laws, so they can't enforce the speed limit without a proper speed limit sign. That's just one example of how big this issue is and how we have to work through it.
Security is a really, really tough problem. In earlier years on Fort Clark, the security that we had, our security personnel wore badges, carried pistols on their hip. You didn't get in the gate unless you showed your membership card. If you had a guest, they better be in the car behind you because they were not going to get on the fort. We need to get back to that type of security. That's what I purchased in 1979. Since then, it has gone downhill. We can improve it, but it's going to take everybody working together.
Thank you. This is our last questioner. Please step forward, sir, and ask your question.
I've been in the fort about 13 years, and the first thing I asked my builder, do we need an alarm system? Oh no, you don't need no alarm out here. Nobody gets robbed. The first thing I done is kicked my damn door down and stole $10,000 worth of merchandise. Now, there's another thing I asked. When the fort gives out a contract for the hunters, you don't give it in the favor of the hunter. You give the contract in the favor of this fort. Amen. That's it. When you get sued, you pay a tremendous amount of money, and it's totally wasted. Thank you.
Sir, which of those two questions do you want the answer to? You asked two questions. I said, which one do you want the answer to? Oh. Apparently, he wants the answers. Okay, we'll call this a day, and I thank you very much, all of you, for your presence. It was very kind of you to come and meet us